Margaret Whitney, The Place Beyond Hope and Fear. Have you seen that essay? I'm gonna send you. Secret. Sorry, but you haven't started. Stop. Okay. You're gonna stop. See, there's so many questions. No, I'm teasing. I'm teasing. I'm teasing. My mom move, I just go like this. Hello. Okay, so you're gonna use it basically. No, but listen, and then so you don't use the sound at the beginning. You say like, close your eyes, for example, close your eyes, yeah. I do like this.
So when you do, what do you do in the song? Is it for the pianist?
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. It's Friday night, I think, which is great to see you all here ready to learn or be with us. So thank you so much. We're here to celebrate Cecilia. We're here to celebrate art. We're here to celebrate activism and all people working in these realms with us. Today I'm joined by two amazing artivists. We call them people that work in art and activism. Cecilia's work is really centered around the idea of hope in these times of transformation, hope in these really turbulent times, because it's something that we all really do need to hold on to. I don't know if anyone else is going through some particularly turbulent times at the moment or follows any astrology, but apparently there's lots of alignments going on that is shaking us all. So first and foremost, we want you all to feel really comfortable with us, joined in with us, part of the family with us on stage. And with that, Felipe has brought you a really special gift. So we'd like you to all close your eyes. We're going to enter a water form of meditation and just be and enjoy for a few minutes. It's hard to talk after that. Thank you, Felipe. So just going to present to you Felipe Viveros, wonderful soul, works in many different art worlds, as well as academic worlds, as well as weaving worlds. And he's a Chilean from the city with many, many roots, many indigenous roots as well. So it's really interesting to talk to him about his perspectives of indigenous wisdoms and indigenous communities and what's happened in Chile over the past 30 odd years in his life. But we're going to, before that, be offered another gift from our other panelist, Lucy Martins, who is another artivist, filmmaker, who has been touring the world and dedicating her life to following indigenous communities, elders, and wisdom keepers, and so has got a profoundly deep perspective on how people relate to the world whilst being fully interconnected with the world and part of the world and part of nature. Lucy's offering is a film that she made called 12 Elders, and we're going to get a trailer of this. And this is also another meditation. The whole film was made as a meditation, so close your eyes again, but don't, because you've got to watch the film. But enjoy this second meditation for you.
croyez que c'est par hasard que nous sommes ici, à l'immeuble des Nations Unies? Vous croyez que c'est par hasard qu'on est ici? L'argent, le luxe ne sont pas plus importants que l'amour et la confiance, par exemple.
Naturaleza, este momento, naturaleza está enferma. Vemos que no está enfermo, pero sí está enfermo.
ね、人類絶滅すると思います、このままではね。
Yo pienso mucho de la madre tierra porque está vivo eso.
त्यो बुझेपछि पछि चाहिँ काम लाग्छ भनेर हामीले त्यस्तो त्यस्तो सिकाएर अहिलेको मान्छेहरूलाई हामीले त्यो सिकाउँछौँ क्या
Para la gente que no vea la verdad, tenemos que hacer ya.
I almost want to clap. Shall we have a little clap? Thank you. So I think we'll start with you, Felipe, and the sounds of nature.
Can we put the presentation, the pictures, please?
Thank you.
Can you all see? Are we in the way? Okay.
So, yeah, I was saying earlier, it's just really, I was feeling really moved this afternoon. I was feeling very emotional. And yeah, it's really, not just in a way because we are where we are, but also, and I'm looking at Angela because, and also Sega as well, because it's, yeah, it's a whole lifetime, I think, to, like we were saying earlier, Cecilia Vicuña was said a couple of weeks ago, it took me 50 years to get here. And yeah, and I think it's sort of like, yeah, it's a great honor to be here and just show a little bit of our work and our collaborations. And I think I am, yeah, I'm a Latinx activist and artist. And yeah, and I just got a few images to show you. And this is something, sort of a few years ago, my friend Michelle, who's now deceased, and I were part of this collaboration around and looking at this aesthetics of like indigenous futurism and stuff. So just wanted to kind of pay her a little homage. And this idea of like, yeah, indigenous people remind us we are from the earth. And this is Angela's work, which I sort of screenshot and stole from her, or borrow from her. And this is, yeah, this is Chile. This is 2019. And yeah, it was a moment where young women led the uprising and the revolution and the change. And it was, yeah, and it was a fast, very self-organized, very inspiring movement. And I think if countries like Chile can do it, or Bolivia, is sort of like, it has become like a sport for us. Change the government, change the system. And I think anywhere it can happen. And this is just a picture from the newspaper. I'm there here in the far right in the corner, looking quite angry, and I'm just 19, and and we were working with these two sisters, Verta and Nicolasa, and we were part of this movement to help create space and sort of like change the way things are. There's so much racism still. There's so much inequality and so much systemic oppression and I was thinking just like I Greta or Vanessa or all the kind of these young activists, I get it. It's like, yeah, you feel invincible when you're young and you have no fear and I think it's so important today to just to connect with that source that in a way is everywhere. And this is just some quick pictures from some of the communities where I've been, where I have worked. This is a Mapuche territory in the south near Temuco. It was occupied by the Air Force and then reclaimed back by the indigenous people. So they built an altar and a totem, and they did a ceremony. And it was this really strange mix between like Protestant and indigenous resistance. And it's just so fascinating because things are not sort of like clear-cut as we imagine. And this is, I don't know, like 15 years ago or something. And the photographer is my friend Fred, who's a French photographer. And this is one of the ceremonies and some of the, in terms of the sacred activism, in terms of the forms, and we're going to be talking about this at the end because we're doing something in Egypt in a couple of weeks. But just the sense of like, this is the technology, this is the stories, this is the power in a way, the ceremony, the prayer, the togetherness, the being able to fall out, being able to cry and to fall apart, but also being able to celebrate that we have this beautiful life. This is just when I first came to the UK, I was feeling like very displaced. I was feeling like totally lost, and so I started to do some like just sort of like little interventions. And I just want to share this one because when I was coming here also, and I've been sort of like preparing this presentation for a few weeks, and just this connection of how we can unfuck art and how art can become an instrument and a tool for social transformation and kind of awareness, and not a tool in the hands of capitalism. And this is a project I was involved last year in Greater Manchester, and this question of epistemic justice, right? White dominant worldview see the end of the world very near, and we don't really see a way out. We feel really stuck. And there's so many other worldviews, there's so many other stories and epistemologies that are sort of telling us different stories. And this is all people like us in the diaspora. And it's been great that we have so many different names to talk about it, but it's sort of like this human connection that we need more, that we are kind of craving. And this is just a collaboration I was doing with my friend Chris, and just in terms of connecting with the land here in the UK and the sort of the ley lines and the stories of the land. And it's something we don't need to go to the jungle, or we don't need to go to the Andes or to Mapuche land, to Wallmapu, but it's sort of right here, right where we are. We have this incredible river, we have this incredible sky, we have this incredible world, and unless we take care of it, we're really screwed. And I'm nearly at the end of the slides, and this is something that we published just recently, last week or so, and it's an article, and it's sort of like it's sort of an evolution of the aesthetics that I was mentioning at the beginning, and just this question of like, we have the Western mind and the savage mind, if you like, or we have the wild and the sort of the mechanistic worldviews, and they don't have to necessarily be in contradiction, but they can be in juxtaposition, they can be synergy and symbiosis, and it's up to us. And this is one of the indigenous leaders in Campamento ATL in Brazil. This weekend we have some incredible, important elections in Brazil, second round, and this is an area I've been working a lot in Brazil with indigenous leaders and indigenous communities. And this is just some of the experiments I've been doing with like AI, and kind of like, this is a machine to plot ley lines, and it's sort of like an imaginary machine. And that's it. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Felipe. I have a million questions to pose, but I've been informed we don't have much time left, so let's try and go over to Lucy and then we can play. You've been wandering the world, learning, being, experiencing, ceremonying with many different cultures. And so I'd love to know for you what it is and what it is for you, the differences between how we're living, let's say, in London, and how people who are really connected to the land, who are indigenous, who are keeping wisdoms, live, and what it is we can learn from to start reconnecting and relating in a way with the world and ourselves that is more aligned with these transformative times.
Yeah, thank you. I think one of the main themes of all the 12 elders, which were all very interconnected, because if you look at primordial wisdom, it's actually all the same across the world and across all cultures. And one of the main themes was that we're actually completely disconnected from the sacred and the spiritual. And we're like so much in the material that we're out of balance. And that's where actually all the problems start. So if we bring that back into balance, that means bringing back certain values and protocols and principles in the way we are, A, with ourselves, and then with everything outside of ourselves. So I think this film, which I did together with the foundation I work with, called Lucia Foundation, was a huge initiation myself, because I was not really into the spiritual world. I was not really into, believing much about indigenous wisdoms, and was kind of an outsider and maybe not really feeling it. But I think going on that journey and then actually really being broken down and being shown these different wisdoms and elders who were more and more powerful the more one actually met them, because they really, you meet a certain presence which I had not met before. And I think they just kind of can see through you, and you just have to get straight. So I think the Kogi, for example, who live in the Sierra Nevada in Colombia, they taught me something really, really profound, that, everything starts with your thoughts. And I'm someone who can be so negative about myself, and I thought, okay, it can be, just against me, no one will know. But they said, with your own thoughts, you're already polluting the earth, because the earth sucks everything up. So it really, really starts with yourself. And if you look at all these universal laws and principles and the holistic way of living and being, how all these indigenous still are, who are connected to their lineage, it means looking at the world and everything in a very holistic way. And that's what we don't do anymore. We just look at the problems and the solutions in a more disconnected way.
We are living in a kind of individual mindset world at the moment, and actually, as you're saying, being interconnected is the key, isn't it, to know? And I think a lot of indigenous communities see themselves as being the blade of grass, as well as the blade of grass being ourselves. I'm wondering if, Felipe, you have anything to say on that, in the sense of what we can do to be more interconnected, even maybe in a city or wherever we are in the world. Like we've got these taboos on what it means to be spiritual, right? And more people are becoming more and more spiritual and aware of how important it is to connect with themselves. What are the entry points? How do people get into it? How can we start to connect?
You cannot. No, it's a really serious sort of audience. I'm like,
We dare you. Try it.
why is everyone so quiet? I think it's just, yeah, it's like a construct. I think this question of sacredness and profound, like the difference between sacred and unsacred, is just a construct in our mind, I think, and I think it's part of the problem in a way, and how we want to define it. There's some wonderful books like Braiding Sweetgrass, and in a way, Angela, who's coming straight after us, is going to be, yeah, talking about that, this question of, yeah, this whole thing is sacred. Indigenous people in many cultures around the world, our ancestors, they didn't even have a word for sacred. It was, everything was part of this incredible whole. But I think it's just super simple. It's like I was just earlier at my friend's place, and we went to the roof of her building, just a few blocks down there, and we were just connecting with the sun and sort of saying, yo, son, thank you so much. So it doesn't have to be like, yeah, too solemn or too kind of like up your own, you know what I mean? It can be something very simple, and I think within, and I think particularly, and I will finish because I'm aware of time, but I think this is, the UK has been so colonized as a kind of epicenter of colonialism. It's sort of like, it's been sort of wiped out, the sort of the heart, the soul, and part of our kind of job today is to really nurture that. And when we did a couple of weeks ago this ceremony and ritual with Cecilia Vicuña down there by the Turbine Hall, there were so many people, and it was just so awesome. And I think it's like, we don't really need many excuses to celebrate, and I think it's just about being authentic and just playful.
It's like, see it as it's a celebration. It's a ceremony, whatever, and it's good for you. It's like, it's a healthy thing to do. Yeah. So in these times of hope, look inwards, look outwards, look at the birds, look at nature. It's all around you, and be part of the mission going forwards, because the transformation is now. Would anybody like to ask any questions? Yes, sir, at the front. Please introduce yourself.
You'll be hearing from me after, but just to egg the questions is to you and to the audience. Are there any Chileans here? Any Latinx? Can I is there anything you'd like? It's your space having Cecilia here as well. Is there anything you wanted to add or say?
Why did I raise my hand? I think, if anything I want to add, well, I think as a person from the Global South, one thing that I can say is that we know so much about the Global North, and the Global North doesn't know shit about us. So if you want to... And if you really I also think that, like, another thing that I have lots of conversations with Felipe. I'm like privileged enough to know him personally. And one conversation we had recently is that if people are panicking about refugee crisis right now, just wait until climate disasters start to get a lot worse. We are coming, everyone's coming to wherever is safe. And it doesn't matter. Like, we either have to stop it now or we have to deal with the consequences. So yeah, just care about each other, and yeah, learn about other places that you don't really know anything yet.
Thank you. And fora Bolsonaro.
I think there was another question at the back. Yes. Yes.
So you mentioned, hi, thank you so much. You mentioned earlier something about Egypt, something you're doing there in relation to indigenous peoples. You know, COP27 is coming up in the next week or so, and in Egypt, which is a militarized state where indigenous peoples are doing an enormous effort to be able to be there to represent their communities in such a time of incredible uncertainty and crisis. And it feels like every week we're living yet another historical event. How can we support, what kind of, how are you bringing kind of the sacred and the wisdom and the connection that you have with indigenous peoples into action and into climate action?
Thanks, Isabella. That was a trick question. But I was writing an article the other day, and I was thinking, like, things are so complicated at the moment. We definitely need prayer, and we definitely need this sort of like superpower cultivation. And and I think Sophie's gonna, and all three, we are going to Egypt, and a couple of other people here as well. COP27, and there is a whole shebang. It's very chaotic, it's beautiful, it's human, it's and we are trying to meet, I wouldn't say halfway, but there's definitely like a need to meet our relatives from the south, from Africa, from the Middle East, and and Sophie's been working her ass off, and it's like, and I'm so proud of you, Sophie, because
Hello. Well, first of all, please, everybody come to Egypt. We're trying to start something really beautiful. We're talking about connecting on the panel, and it is all about connecting and relating and coming together as a community. Egypt, COP27 is happening there. By the way, they call Egypt a military and UN state. They don't like being called just a military state. So, COP27 is happening there. It's a pivotal moment every year. We know this. It's politicians and scientists coming together to make laws for the future and promises for the future that I think a lot of people in the arts world and in the global south and all around the world are pretty upset about, because they're not progressive enough and they're not moving fast enough, and that's not necessarily on the politicians' shoulders. It's just, we've got to make radical change, and we've got to make it now, and it's not happening fast enough. So last year's COP happened in Glasgow, which brought together a lot of amazing human beings in the cultural sector, and it really was we're calling the new movement Culture COP, and it's a movement for everybody to join into. By the way, this is a collective. Let's make change together, and it kind of stemmed from many years of different companies working in the cultural sector, wanting to do things in the climate sector, and now we're doing it in a big way at COP this year. It's called Culture COP. We're going to be in the blue zone, we're going to be in the green zone, we're going to be all over Sharm, and we're actually hosting a big celebration in the desert, in the Sinai desert, very, very close to where Moses was handed his 10 commandments. But all of our focus is around bringing people from around the world into the forefront of the political conversations, into the eyes, and for politicians to witness what's going on the forefront around the world. Lucy has been championing the side from the elders, wisdom keepers, and indigenous communities. We've got celebrations, we've got ceremonies happening for the core crew, for everybody coming, for our guests, and it's a moment to really put our feet in the sand, feel the earth, and come together through prayer, through catharsis, falling back in love with the world, finding ways to come together to fall back in love with the world whilst acting, and through artivism. So thank you, Tate, for having us here to be able to talk about this opportunity, and please get in touch if you want to be part of something that we hope will be a big family of people wanting to make change.
And we have the assembly on the 31st, which is going to be online, and it's going to be translated to simultaneously. And maybe Cecilia Vicuña said she might come. And you can join, register online. We have already a few hundred people coming, Culture COP assembly, and you can find the links in whatever our social media stuff.
So the online assembly is the kind of starting point to ask the questions of what culture can do to make change, and we're inviting all culture makers or humans that want to be part of this to join us online this Monday, and then we will be live in Egypt over COP. Do we have time for Lucy to explain what's happening with the Wisdom Keepers in Egypt, or should we? You got 1 minute. You can do it.
1 minute. Well, I guess it's just adding on what I said earlier, but, you know, having ceremonies for ourselves, but also for the earth, and really kind of praying for the earth. And that's why all these wisdom keepers and indigenous elders and the indigenous youth are also coming in, because they really still have that holistic view that we have kind of forgotten. And also looking at culture as a much bigger thing, because culture is everything. It's the way we are with each other. It's our biodiversity. It's the way we behave, it's the values we put in, it's everything. So I think really reminding that we have to, be very careful of every step we do, of every thought we think, and put in a lot of joy, because that's super important right now. We just need lots of joy and celebration. So, Culture Cop.
Culture Cop to bring hope and truth. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Felipe. Thank you, Lucy.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, audience.
Gracias.
You have a half an hour break, so go mingle and come and join Culture Cop. Yeah.
Nós se consideramos assim dos melhores conservadores do pulmões do mundo para todo o povo do mundo. E aí o meu povo
You still got 3 mics on the stage from the previous talk. Yes. There's only 2 speakers for the next one. Yeah. How's it going? You're more nervous than you are.
I'll go. No, I haven't seen it.
sandwich. Huh?
You can do you want me to tell you what this is? Is this a joke? Okay. So take modern usually people tell, and then this is people in that building, because there is a direct view from when you stay here directly to the living room, they try to sue the tape and have like
How do you say this like this?
No, this is
Hello. Hello, everybody, and yes, thank you for coming to the second talk here. After we had a wonderful one with Felipe, Lucy, and Sophie, and I'm absolutely delighted to have Angela Camacho here, the Bonita Chola. So, can everyone give a clap just to warm us up? So Angela is a very special person and amazing person, I think. And she's an artist. She's also a domestic worker as well. And she's an ancestor in the making and a bruja. Is that correct? I tried. So obviously, this talk is linked into the work of Cecilia Vicuña, and this is very important for the Latinx community, and it's such a powerful piece. And as we heard earlier, when we came for the ritual to launch this, where Cecilia took us around, and she said this was 50 years in the making for her to have this exhibition. So it's important. I'm a trustee of Earth%, which is a charity in the music industry, trying to get all that money that the music industry says they have, show off that they have, and to put that towards institutions, organizations, and people to make the climate better. Because we're extracting money and we're extracting resources from the earth to make these profits. We should put it back when we're degrading it. So that's what my role is with Earth%. And this is a platform, when this opportunity came about, is to highlight people, especially indigenous voices, and people who are real, true artists, whether they are doing it fully 9 to 5 or not, but really rooted in community and everything. And especially to have Cecilia as a Latinx and how she puts feminist voices forward. So it's important. Now, a chance to show off the work of Angela Bonita Chola. So it was a little journey. I had to go through 2 people to find you, Angela. Isn't that correct?
Yes, because I don't reply emails. Or I don't, like my grandma teach me well, so I don't talk to strangers. But I tend not to reply emails, open my email or DMs, or like if I don't know you or you don't know my inner circle and the people that I work with, I just don't go outside my community to do work. My work is for my community and by my community. So it doesn't make any sense to go outside of that.
Yeah, absolutely. And 2 of the people to blame for me getting to Angela, one of them here, Farah Ahmed here. So thank you, Farah. And Angela Chan, I'm not sure whether she's here yet, but those are the 2 individuals. And I think that's very important to have that connection. And so most people will know this Instagram page. As you can see, there's quite a few followers there. So you set this up. When you set this up, like, why did you set it up? Just for fun, or?
And the account and like being in social media, especially IG, it started like a journal. So it was a private account for like a long time. So I will just journal there, and as part of like my mental health, and like write somewhere like my experience as a migrant and documented single mom, survival of incarceration, and like all like random stuff. So I will just take pictures and like write there and just put my heart there. With the time, like other friends that they work with, like youth, Latinx youth, or like migrant youth, or like incarceration survivors, like domestic abuse, they will tell me, oh, can you just, let this person in your IG? I just send them so they can see, like, how they can canalize those traumas and like how to like pass by that. And maybe 3 years ago, I opened the account because a lot of friends asked me, like, you should really open it. And make it like a public. And at that time I started to do like collage as well as a medium, like just to like do things and just to archive, to create an archive of like land defenders and indigenous like warriors. And because we didn't have that here in Europe, in the global north, And there is a big community that they need that kind of archive. My son started following me on IG, so I was like, yeah, I'm gonna teach you something. And then he blocked me, but whatever. He find out. And randomly he was like, oh my God, you know what? And like, it was very cool what you post and this and that. And then he realized why, and he just started following me. So he doesn't follow me anymore, but whatever. Whatever. Yes, but that's why I started the account, just to archive, to have a beautiful, something beautiful, like for us.
Like this beautiful.
Yeah.
So this is Angela's page here. And as you can see, so when you just said, oh, I just started doing collages, if it was me, I'd have a cereal box and some glue. But look at this. How did you come up with this idea? And why collage as opposed to, say, I know you did some videos. So why this?
Well, I guess because I couldn't sit down on a table and do collage with paper. I work full-time as a domestic worker, and I have, back in the day, all the hassles at the top of that, so I couldn't sit down. Like, I need to work. I work as a nanny, so I'm always on the move, so it needs to be on my phone. So all those collages are done in my phone. There is no like, I never had a computer until like 2 years ago because someone gave me one. And like, I'm broke. So like most of migrants and single mom, like whatever. I was undocumented for several years as well. So all those collages are done in my phone with 2 or 3 free apps. I don't even know what's the name of this fancy like design, like programs or whatever. Like, yeah, but at the top of that, when I was doing a lot of organizing in relation with the Global South and civilists in the front line, I will send like complicated images that friends will help me to do in computers, and they will go like, well, we cannot use that image because it's very heavy for my phone, so I cannot even open it. So the teaching was that not everyone has, access to like fast Wi-Fi. No one has, especially in the Global South, that like to like new phones or whatever iPhone new is now. So you have to be like very light image. It needs to be impact. You have like, you need to be like catchy, something that we always talk in the organizers, like circles back home. It's like, like the right wing is very fast. It's very like capitalism, imperialism. It's very like fast to create image, fast to like and it's very catchy and beautiful. But then we don't have the access. We don't know how to do that. Or like we just don't have the equipment to do the resources. So the idea of starting to do collages in my phone with free apps, it was just to do that, to start creating that narrative that is going to be catchy, it's going to like attract youth and like new people just to start doing, social work, especially social justice, climate justice, and all the justice that we need. And a couple of times when I went to Latin America, I teach like different groups how to do this collage and how they can use the phone to edit and this and that.
That's amazing, and it's been noted, it's been noticed and noted. And if we look at this is City Women of London, and it was Emma Watson and Renee Edo-Lodge. And if any of you from the Latinx community, if you just make some noise. So what stop is that, the Bonita Chola? Which one does that relate to? There we go. Yeah, so they had Angela here for Elephant and Castle. Because I think it's a really interesting thing how you can use these different, so someone might look and it's like very pretty. So on the surface, okay, I like it because it's pretty. But having had this wonderful conversation when we met a few weekends ago, and then you were talking about what's behind all of these images and what's deeper, and it's interesting. So these are a few things which I picked out. So there's information behind these images.
I didn't do it, okay.
So what's this? So again, if like this post or this picture.
Okay, another thing that I've been doing a lot is like I translate resources. Most of these resources, they are in English sometimes, strangely.
Yeah, sorry, this is the auto-translate, because I can't speak.
Oh no, but no, like, yeah, this is in English, yes, but I translate a lot of like resources to Spanish, so we can like, you know, spread this information in Latin America and for Latin American people that speak Spanish. Yeah, it's just that. That's why I do my federation. Okay.
And then, I'm sorry.
Well done.
And then what's fascinating as well is, again, it's also a celebration, isn't it? So, and this is my picture, which I thought this represents a celebration of this, what you made your collage.
I think so the collages go back to remember pictures of my grandma. And my grandma wear regalia all her life. Like, this is my regalia part. But, you know, because I'm not full-on, I don't wear these clothes every day like my grandma, she raised me. I remember her pictures, and she didn't have very happy pictures when she was with her regalia. She was very humble, she has very humble regalia. And the only 2 pictures that she has back home before she migrated, they weren't pretty. And when I was a child, I remember that I was very ashamed and embarrassed of my indigenous legacy. The legacy that I grew up with, like, you know, in the back patio, my grandma and my aunties will talk Quechua, they will cook the traditional dishes and the music and all the celebrations. We were like, still follow the indigenous calendar and like all that. So one of the things when I started doing the collage, the first pictures, it was me, and this was one of my cousins here, and this was my grandma. And the intention behind that was to create an archive when my ancestors, they were beautiful. So like just to like, yeah, like just thinking in the future, like thinking in my son, my great-grandchildren, like, Jesus Christ. Hi. Teresa, okay. It was just that. It's just like, you know, like just, normally I say, yes, I'm an ancestor in the making. So it's just, that's the goal, like in 3-4 generations. And I want to have an archive that is going to be beautiful. I don't want my great-great-grandchildren to look at a picture of me and go like, oh my gosh, she looks so sad. Like, I want my kids to look up to that, something that is beautiful and it's glorious and it's, you know, like great. So that's why I started to put all the flowers and all the colors. And I'm a very colorful person. Anyways, I guess that's, you know, in my genes as well. My people is very colorful. So those is how I start this. And again, like, you know, at home, in my phone, like going to work at 5 in the morning or so. And yeah.
That's beautiful. So yeah, there's the family side, and then also there's the amplification. I think we skipped a slide, but anyway, yeah, amplification of this.
Yes, one of the works that I've been doing and that we've been doing, loads of like Latins people of like the indigenous diaspora in the whole global north. It's just like we amplify and that we support. And we resist from the diaspora. And one of the things that we've been doing is just that, like, just amplify the voices, amplify what's going on. Like, sadly, and not sadly, but it's part of the whole, like, white supremacy system, like, that not to inform the global north or the diasporas in the global north, us, like, migrant diasporas in the global north, like what's going on in the global south. Because if we disconnect for that knowledge, we're not gonna go and vote, we're not gonna go and care, we don't gonna, and then, you know, the machine will keep going and going and going. Like this weekend, like it's gonna be like the election in Brazil, and we all want Bolsonaro out, of course. And yeah, but see, and you will like don't think that it's important or not. Like some people don't realize when you are in the diaspora, like how important the migrant vote is. Like there is a lot of, ¿cómo se dice exiliados? Exiled. Like there is like a big community of exiled people, like a big, like the percentage of that vote is very, very important. And one of the things that the whole system does is not feed us the right information, so we don't vote and we don't care. And the machine keeps going and keeps going. So part of the work, not only me, because the page, I don't know how no one block me or like steal the page, because everyone has the password. Like there is like maybe like 100 people in that account. Like, for like Ecuador, Colombia, Bolivia, like people just take cover or do lives and they just send me a DM or a WhatsApp, what, I'm gonna be in the page this week. Okay, cool. And like, okay. But that's the idea. The idea was 3 years ago, when we didn't have presence in social media as indigenous people, just to create platforms, just to create spaces where we can do these things, we can do amplify. And it's not only like just to amplify information, it was about as well about care, because a lot of people in the Global South, in the front lines, a lot of Compass, they just don't, sometimes they feel they're not being seen from people in the Global North. Like the news is not like crossing the ¿cómo se dice? Barrera mediática? Barrier, mediática? Well, whatever, like there is a barrier with the news. So like sometimes, whatever marches they do, whatever things they do, whatever protests they do, the news doesn't cross that barrier. And again, because it feeds the whole machine, the same thing that if it happens here, it happens in the Global South. The same people owns the newspapers, the media, and everything. So it's a whole monopoly of information. So one of the works that does the page is just that, just to create that care as well. You know what, I see you. I'm not very far away, but here there is a whole community that we actually see you. And that feeling of care that we can give each other is one of the pillars of how we organize as well.
Yeah, and actually, so this was still in the celebrate, because it's all interlinked. These words, I just picked some words, because I had to make something pretty for Angela. But, so this is in the amplification as well, so there's this.
That was for the COP, again, like celebrating different leaders and like putting the voice out, what was going on in the COP25. And that was just, the whole thing is as well just to like give information to youth here and to the community here to know who is these people, to know what's happening, and in a fast way, in a catchy way. And that's Helena Jawelinga from Ecuador.
Fantastic. So, I mean, we've seen this side of it, and for one artist, that should be enough, but there's more, and we've got a little video as well, where not only are you good with the images, you've also got, oh, God.
Yeah, but I didn't edit the video.
That's okay.
Oh. I don't know how to do
that. You can't do it all. But yeah, so this is your poetry, would you say? It's your words. We'll just play it.
Mis manos saludan al Tata Inti en cualquier parte del mundo. Saludan, cansadas de no sentir, pero siempre recuerdan que son hijas, guaguas de la tierra. Somos indígenas, indígenas descendientes. Y en la piel, una no siente la ausencia de la madre tierra, porque somos su continuidad, somos la extensión de la Pacha. Y la llevamos con nosotras, a todas partes, a todos lados. La sentimos completa, su abundancia, su dolor, su pérdida. Caminamos porque nuestra piel nunca ha dejado de existir. Caminamos para crear un nuevo camino. Caminamos aquí, allá, cerca, lejos. Cada uno de nuestros pasos marca soberanía, grita dignidad. En nuestro pensamiento, en nuestra realidad, no existe la ausencia de la Madre Tierra. ¿Cómo será eso? Nos preguntamos.
So yeah, I mean, there's so much you could talk about that, but I put collaborative wisdom in the same way, because how we say, okay, even there's something you said to me in terms of where you reclaim sovereignty. So obviously now we're in London, but then it doesn't mean that there should be a disconnect if you're currently just in the global north, and then people in the, again, not to put up a barrier. So yeah, what would you say about the collaboration here?
Do you want me to answer you, or do you want the truth of why I made that video?
What do people want?
There's two stories. Okay, I'm gonna reply what you say, but yeah, I truly believe that I'm the extension of my territory, that I reclaim sovereignty with my only presence and existence. I'm not a white Latina, I'm not white. In Latin America, there is white people, lots of them. And like, wherever I go, people will ask me where I'm from. Here in the global north, or when I'm back home too. They will go like, what? Yeah, you're from here? I go, yeah, well, from here. My family's been here for 500 years. But it's nothing I can do about it. I try very hard to be white, very, very hard. It didn't work out in Latin America. I was like, I really want to be white. It's not working. Anyways, so like, but then, yeah, but and then I just understood with knowing, how do you say compa in English? No me, imbécil. Sorry. Camarada? Camarade, okay. Because I met a lot of cameras back home, online, because we know, like, you know, organizing. I just learned with them, like, in a way that we share knowledge. I understand that I'm the extension of my territory. And I don't work, the work that I do is like how it's over there. Like, I work from where I'm from, but I'm here. So like, that's why sometimes I feel so awkward in these spaces. Or why I never leave my community and all my work is only for my community, by my community. And the reality of that, why I made that, is because I want the money. And like, not for me, this was 3 years ago. This was 3 years ago, so Bolivian uprising, we lost democracy in a flink. And the movimiento del socialismo, it was just down, socialist movement with Evo Morales, our first indigenous president elected democratically in the whole of Yala, which is now Latin America. And Adriana Guzman is a social leader. She's a social leader, very well known, one of the first person that put the word out what was happening in Bolivia, because it happened very quick. In like 48 hours, it was just like, yeah, military coup. And she was literally running for her life, and we need money. So another friend, I don't know if he's here, Carlos, was doing something in some fancy pants university, some art stuff. And he goes like, look, I need to curate this. And I go like, oh, like, you have money? He's like, yeah, I need money. I was like, okay, why? What for? Like, well, like, I don't know what I'm going to do, but I need money. How much money? This is money. Oh, that's good money. Okay, cool. So it's like, we're going to send it back to Bolivia for, like, the resistance. And he's like, okay, cool. What are you going to do? I don't know. Like, how big is the space? It's very big. Okay, cool. I'm going to do a video projection and that's it. Like, cheap, easy. And then because in Latin America and in whole of Ayala, there is a whole networking of resistance, which people might think that it doesn't exist, or is invisibilized or whatever because of the media blockage that we have, that barrier, but it's very well organized. It's just like amazingly well organized. In every single corner, like, we are organizing. And even though that organizing, it crosses borders, because resistance has no borders. So like, even here, we are organizing to support back in Abayala. So I call a friend, I call another friend, you know what, I need a camera, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna write some poetry, I write something, are you a poet now? Like, well, I don't know, maybe, yeah, it looks like I need to be one. And it was very beautiful because at the same time, some people that I was filming from Argentina was in Bolivia with Adriana, so they agreed to work for free, so Adriana can get the coins. And then some other people was somewhere in, I don't know, somewhere in Africa, I don't remember which country, and they were like, yeah, we can edit too, cool. And then a lot of people came together, and the sound, and this and that, other people film me here, and they go, how are we gonna do it? I go, I don't know, I think it will be like a and me walking in different territories. And I talk a little bit with her over the phone, and she goes, like, what do you want to do? I'm gonna write this. And then, you know, you're gonna be in your territory. So she was in the mountains at that time, and I'm gonna be in my territory. And then when I was explaining this to the people who was filming, they go like, oh my God, what territory? You go, what this? London is my territory, under this city. Even though that we are in the belly of the beast, like there is a territory to defend. And where I walk and where I am, I'm the extension of the Abya Yala. So based on that came that video. That we sorted out this in 1 week because we want the money. And then we just sent the money back to Rihanna. She could pay rent, like, and you know, we're all happy, and that was it. That was what happened.
There are a few more videos which I'll just run through, and then we'll go to a Q&A. And so at this point, what I'd say is, in terms of what I do in terms of lifting up different voices, well, people of color across the board. And actually, Angela was in still in Wretched of the Earth, again, which is talking about this cross-community thing. So it's, you know, in Latin communities, African, and of course, everywhere, Asia, it's bringing everyone together. And the one thing which I would say is, we need to see like art like this. We need to hear stories about this, and we need to give the people money to do this, like real money. I'm not talking the chump change where it's like, all right, here's a couple £100 or something, because the whole world needs to hear these stories, and it shouldn't rest on people to have to run around to pull it together. Imagine how richer we would be if galleries such as here and museums everywhere else, we could see all of this, because this is what's happening in real time. And it's back to what Felipe said as well, when you're talking about sacred or talk about indigenous, it's not just historical looking back, it's what's happening now, and what tools what you're using, Angela, and different tools. So I'll just flip through these things. This is like this app that you made.
IG put it down because IG doesn't like me.
But we've got it here for you.
It was just again like a way of like amplifying what's going on, and to use like, you know, like the youth like resources, because politicized like young people is key to the social movement. So with a lot of friends and a lot of people that we're trying to create resources, we just thought like, you know what, like we're gonna do this, what do you think? They go, yeah, we need to do this. They go like, oh, maybe with TikTok. I go like, yeah, I'm not gonna do TikTok, you're gonna do TikTok. I'm too old for that. But yeah, that we do a lot of filters with the help of other like camera rights. And yeah, one of the filters, I think we got like 2 million people using it or something like that. And so it was just, oh, that's cute.
So it can be fun as well. Then empowerment, which you've touched upon as well before. Again, kids workshop. So
I'm just wondering, that's in my, you did 2016.
That's because exactly you've been doing the exactly. You're a star. That's why we have to have this stuff up here.
You did your homework.
You have to. And then more recently.
Sofía, ya vámonos. Ya, Sofía. Ya va.
Stupid. Okay, that's in United Voices of the World. That's workers' union. Most of them cleaners, but they have like all across like different like kind of jobs. And I'm doing this. Do you want to know the truth? Okay. There's always 2 or 3 stories. The truth is like I need money. I need money for my visa. I'm gonna apply my visa in May. It's a ton of money. Like, yeah, like the state is pushing me to poverty and to pay something that's just so stupidly unnecessary. But anyways, we apply for this other fancy thing, like for some like our residence, something like that. And because I need that money. So I actually put in Instagram. I think so like transparency with money is very important. It's key with my community because I'm doing work with community knowledge. So when I get paid by institutions, I go like, you know what, they're gonna pay me this amount, but I need to keep it because I need the money for my visa this time. Sometimes I can pay people that helps me or like, you know, like redistribute that money. But when I went to talk to the people, the women of the union, I explained everything that we're gonna do. And the idea is just to create a space where like it's intergenerational. So like all the ladies of the union can learn to sew, be politicized, and have a space, you know, a warm place where we can have like care. Winter is coming, it's cold. So, and there is no spaces in our community for them. So we're just doing sewing. I can teach sewing. So when I applied for this residency, that they picked me for this residency, I fooled them to pick me, which is cool because I never applied for anything. But I went to the union to ask them, like, can we do this with you? It's important because it was something to do with Elephant and Castle, the residency, and like how to rehabilitate, some fancy word, to rehabilitate Elephant and Castle, have Latin American. It was very cool. It's a very cool thing. So when I went to the union, the women in the union, they went straight like, you know, like, navajeras, pues. They go like, what are we gonna get? Like, you know, like, these are like women from the barrio, you know, it's not like, you know, you need to give me something, like, what are you gonna get? So like, you know what, yeah, you know, compa, yeah, I know, I'm gonna get some money, but I need it for me, and this is what's going on, and I can give you workshops. I believe that it should be, when you work with community knowledge, it should be like a reciprocity. I need to give something back if I'm gonna take something, because that's what I did. And that's why we agreed to do a session of workshops, like 4 workshops. And because I have a lot of fun anyways, I go like, you know what, I'm gonna do this every month because it's so cool. And we put music, and like we just learn to sew in. Most of the women that they join, they have their own dancing group. Somos Chipchas was there, Warmis was there. So there are all these women, they have their own dancing group. So the idea is to create un costurero comunitario, which I don't know how to say that. Something like that. What should I say?
Yeah, create a community.
Well, I create a community by a place where you can go and sew. Because I don't know, like back home, everyone has a sewing machine, everyone has to sew, but here people don't do that. So I thought like this is something that we can set up in different spaces in the community. And yeah, that happens every Saturday now.
So we've definitely run over, but we needed to hear this. It's fantastic what you're doing, you know, as an individual, as an ancestor in the making, and also for the community now, and as an artist, because this is art. This is art the same way as the Instagram is here. People need to see this, you know, and people need to make sure that the money and the funding and the support goes to people to do this, to, you know, to do stuff which, when I watch it, it enriches my life, which is fantastic. So it's just been a massive privilege to talk to you just now. And we've got time for one question. Is there one question?
Hi. How do you feel the Latin American community is doing in terms of being united here in the UK?
That's a very hard question because we're not very united, to be honest. We're still like in the, you know, buzz of like nationalism, which is very understandable. We come from a very colonial setting from back home. But I do see that there is a lot of work that a lot of people in the community has been doing for like several years, 25, 30, 35 years, even more, to unify us as a whole. And that work is finally showing up. And you will see now when like there is uprisings in Latin America and we need to go and do a march here, we need to go and do a picket here. You will see, for example, when it was the uprising for Colombia, there were a lot of Bolivian people there because I will go with my aunties and cousins and stuff like that, and people from everywhere. So after like decades of work, we are starting to like understand that we are a whole territory with no borders, and like we need to hermanarnos entre nosotros.
Thank you. And how do you think we can achieve that?
Okay. I was like, yeah, I finished, let's go home. No, like, it's been happening. Like, I think so, like, as a good Latin American community, if you just put Latin American community in whatever social media that you can reach, you will have, like, an auntie or an uncle or a prima or someone organizing something. I will say to achieve is just to make yourself active y activarte. Like, go and organize, whatever it is, to be honest, as long as you can talk about politics and politicize yourself, it's like a way of organizing. You can just, like do something to cook in your house, and then just start talking about politics, and then slowly you go like, oh, are you unionized? It's like, no, okay, cool, you're in a union. Or simple things I always ask is just like, oh my God, yeah, like you are, I don't know, like from Ecuador, yeah, like have you got your Ecuadorian passport? Like, no, you can have access to your Ecuadorian, are you enrolled to vote? You'll vote, like, and stuff like that, like very simple things. You can just activate other people like yourself.
Thank you very much for all of you for coming to attend this. Thank you for the question, and thank you for your presence, everyone here. And it's been an absolute pleasure to have Angela Camacho, the Bonita Chola here. And next time, there's one interesting point in terms of a discourse which we have is when we talk about decolonizing spaces, when we look at museums and galleries and other things where there's Benin bronzes, all this stuff which was stolen from other places to fill up other different spaces across this country and across the global north. And people say, oh, why shouldn't we send them back? Well, you should, because it's stolen, so send it back. But then we have stuff right here. When you look at all of this, why is this not? This is our history. This is our history. We're both in London. This is what's living and breathing. Next time I see you, Angela, I want to see this actually in the gallery spaces somewhere. That's what we should. Give people the money to do this, and this is what we should have here to bring some sort of unity here and to hear these stories and everything. So, yeah, I'll see it in a gallery somewhere. Thank you, Angela Camacho, La Bonita Chola.
It's MTS. So I hadn't tried it up to now. I wanted the same drink. And my passport work on it. But it's another departmental area. It's also got the AV room. I thought about it and thought, well, it's kind of fair enough, really. You know, it's not specifically in support of this route. Yes, exactly. So if you wanted to make it so level 6 kitchen. Okay, nice, yeah. Well, I miss my
Need the whole crew here.
I did say something a couple of days ago. It's a bit weird as a live stream, and also it's a legacy content.
Yeah.
Because you've got 3 half-hours and 3 up to half hours. And in my view, if you look, so now we've got no concurrent viewers, which is fine, which is neat. And also, why does my screen keep cutting out?
Well, oh, you don't have an iPhone. I was gonna say, because sometimes if someone messages you and your phone's connected, there's a switch.
No, it did it on the last one.
That's weird. Want a sound check or you think you're good? Yeah?
Why not?
Lauren, can
Sarah.
Sarah please, I knew your name.
That's all right.
Can Sarah please have a sound check quickly?
Do I talk into a mic? Or?
Yeah, he's going to get
Oh, okay.
Unless you want to shout, either one is good.
No, I just am thinking how I'm going to hold the mic and my notes, but I'll work it out.
Oh, and your notes. Oh, interesting. I did not know that.
Don't worry. It's because I'm on my own, so it's not a conversation, so I've got notes which I have to hold and turn the page. But I'll work it out somehow.
Are you sure?
Yeah. Well,
So we broke up.
thank you.
Actually, we may have a lapel mic or in there.
Would not recommend it unless you really want to, because it's just so much more quiet. We have one, but why would you want to use it?
Because she's got notes as well, so to hold the mic.
Yeah,
Just because I'm on my own. It's not a conversation, so I have to have notes. But if you think this is better, I'll find a way to hold it.
Should we can test it out, but I would think it's probably not it's not loud enough. But we can try it quickly. I'll set it up.
Whatever you think.
You can see how you can hold both.
Give me 2 minutes, and I will set up the. Oh, okay. We'll try that first.
I'll try. Yeah. Maybe.
Otherwise, we could have gotten your mic stand, but I don't think we have one here right
Don't
away.
worry. It's okay. Let me see if I can manage to hold it untangent.
Yeah, I'll check on the. This is the mic stand. That might be the quickest.
then.
How'd you feel?
It's okay. If it's a problem, don't worry. I can manage to turn my page and hold the mic at once. I'll be fine.
Lauren is not up in the palm line, so we need to try to see because what he's right, the palm line is a bit quiet. Test well to see how we
Needs to let people in. Are you able to test well? There's people in there. You sure? Are you comfortable with testing?
a little rendition.
Okay.
Yeah, good.
It's getting there's quite a lot of people. Does the live stream? Oh, it's not live right now. It will only become live when you start. Yeah. No one's watching this right now. Just checking. Good question.
It's just very sort of tinny and not very.
Be careful, I don't. Someone's put it stop. Yeah.
1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Let me just bring it up a bit. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3.
Hello.
You see, in comparison, it's just very, very.
Do you want to test it and see when she's looking for a while? And you can clip it to her, let's see how it sounds.
Hi everyone, can you hear me well? Great, good evening. My name's Sarah Schenker and I am a campaigner at Survival International, which is the global movement for tribal peoples. We work with tribal and indigenous peoples around the world, fighting for their land rights and for their survival. Thanks so much to the Tate and to Cecilia Vicuña for inviting us to be a part of this amazing project. And it's great to see so many of you here, and hello also to those of you who are watching online. And for the next half an hour, we're going to go on a journey around Brazil. We are going to zoom in on some of the amazing ways of indigenous peoples in Brazil and some of the lessons that we must all learn from them, and also the fierce challenges they face. These are challenges that we all need to combat alongside them. It's one of the most urgent fights of our time. And through this journey, we're going to be accompanied by 5 indigenous people from Brazil, and these are people who are on the front line of that fight. The videos that we're going to see are part of Survival's Tribal Voice project, which provides a platform and encourages indigenous people around the world to speak out to an international audience in many languages and to ensure global visibility. That visibility is step number 1 in the fight for their land rights. And step number 2 is, of course, using that attention once people's eyes and ears and hearts have been opened, using that attention and turning it into real action. Since Survival was founded in 1969, we've seen time and again that international public opinion is by far the best force for lasting change to make the world a better place for indigenous peoples. The indigenous people of Brazil are, of course, Brazil's first peoples. There are around 1 million indigenous people in Brazil today, and they make up more than 300 different peoples, including more than 100 uncontacted tribes who avoid all contact with outsiders. And they're all over the country in all of Brazil's biomes, including the Amazon rainforest, the Cerrado scrub forest, the Atlantic forest, and also there are thousands of indigenous people living in urban areas in Brazil. Their lands are supposed to be demarcated. That means that the government is supposed to officially map them out, identify them, and recognize them for the exclusive use of indigenous peoples. That's written into Brazil's constitution. And of course, before colonization, the whole country was inhabited by indigenous peoples exclusively. Today, 14% of the land is demarcated as indigenous territories, and there are lots of indigenous lands that aren't yet demarcated, as we're soon going to see. Of course, indigenous peoples in Brazil and globally are the best guardians of their land. They've been expertly molding and looking after that land for millennia, and as a result, indigenous territories are the most biodiverse places on Earth. Indigenous peoples are protecting 80% of our planet's biodiversity, and they are by far our best allies in the fight against climate change. So in Brazil and beyond, the best and the cheapest way to ensure that that biodiversity can continue to thrive is to uphold indigenous land rights, and also to reject colonial conservation projects like nature-based solutions, including carbon credits, and the 30 by 30 plan, which is a proposal to convert 30% of the Earth's land and seas into so-called protected areas by the year 2030. This would be the biggest land grab in history. These proposals are being pushed by governments and big conservation organizations in clear violation of indigenous people's rights. And in some parts of the world, indigenous peoples are being evicted, tortured, and killed in the name of conservation. So back to Brazil, and where their lands are kept free of outsiders, indigenous territories in some parts of Brazil and beyond are islands of green surrounded by deforestation. Look at Google Earth, look at Brazil, and zoom out so that you can see the whole face of the earth, and you'll be able to see those islands of green there. It's incredible. And one of those islands of green is the Arariboia Indigenous Territory in Maranhão State in northeastern Brazil. And now we're going to hear from our friend Olímpio Guajajara, who lives there.
Nós se consideramos assim dos melhores conservadores do pulmões do mundo para todo o povo do mundo. E aí o meu povo sempre na conservação da mata, né? Porque era a nossa alta sustentabilidade, né? Porque delas nós tiramos as caças para sobreviver, né? Colhemos frutas, fazemos roça para plantar alimentação cotidiana das comunidades, né? Então sempre veio nessa conservação e que se fazia naturalmente uma queimada controlada das comunidades, né? Porque enquanto não chovia e molhava bem as folhas, eles não queimavam as suas roças, né? Então, seguido, os caras eles seguiam essa ideias, né, muito importante, inteligente, né, que eles usavam, né, a inteligência dele, né, muito mais do que muitas pessoas que estudaram, que são estudados, né, e que não estão fazendo nada pela defesa do clima, do mundo, né? Está tendo um desequilíbrio no clima do nosso mundo, né? Então, eu quero que as pessoas vejam o nosso interesse, né, em defender o que resta para o mundo, entendeu? Porque nós não estamos defendendo o oxigênio aqui não só para nós, é para o mundo, né? Então, as pessoas, ou empresários, ou entidades que apoiam a conservação ambiental, investir na gente que está realmente permanente aqui dentro da nossa terra para fazer uma boa conservação ambiental. Nós somos pessoas da paz, queremos a paz para o mundo e a paz para a floresta. E a paz para a vida dos Auá dentro da TI indígena Arariboia e onde existir os índios isolados no nosso país e no mundo.
Olímpio was actually in Europe recently, so some of you may have seen him speaking at some of the events that we did together. He was on quite a unique campaign tour. And in the video, obviously, he's outlined some of the many ways in which Indigenous peoples look after their lands, and they do that not as a chore, but as an intrinsic part of who they are and how they live. And of course, their lands, as he's explained, their lands provide everything that they need: their food, their medicine, their shelter, and their spiritual center. And so, of course, they deeply respect that land and nurture it. And Olímpio is also an Amazon guardian. The guardians are groups of indigenous people who actively go and patrol their forests and look for the loggers and evict them from those territories and send them away. And across the country, indigenous land protection initiatives are evolving constantly, and more of them are emerging. And they wouldn't be necessary if the Brazilian government was abiding by its own constitution and keeping invaders out of these territories and also complying with international law. But of course, that's not happening. And instead, indigenous territories are being stolen and destroyed for logging, mining, and agribusiness, meaning in the name of big profit. And the forests and the lives of the people who live there are being destroyed. This genocide is being fueled by global markets, of course, and by the international demand for wood, oil and gas, gold, etc., and other commodities. And it's a global issue, and we're all responsible for stopping it. And Now we're going to hear from Clara Guarani. She lives in Mato Grosso do Sul state in central western Brazil, on the border with Paraguay. And remember that that part of South America, the southern part of South America, was once inhabited by more than 1.5 million Guarani people of different ethnic subgroups. And they and the survivors today call their land the Tecoha, which means the land without evil.
De certa forma, o genocídio está acontecendo com a gente em silêncio, né? E a gente gostaria de repassar isso para o mundo, né? Desde 1500, na chegada dos europeus, já somos roubados. E com perda que a gente fomos roubados, nós perdemos tudo. Perdemos até a liberdade de viver. E hoje a gente estamos sendo humilhados. E ultimamente a gente estamos se humilhando para pedir de volta o que é nosso. A bancada ruralista banca outros ladrões também que roubaram no passado a nossa terra. E hoje eu vejo assim, e ainda tem coragem de chamar a gente de pobre, miserável, invasor, o bando de imprestável. Mas só que eles esqueceram que eles que roubaram tudo, as nossas riquezas. Eu vejo assim, 24 horas a morte ronda em nossa direção. Não importa se é criança, se é velho, se é idoso, se é mãe. Os povos indígenas Guarani Kaiowá realmente está sendo muito assim. Parece que a gente já não tem mais saída. Agora a nossa saída é partir pelo internacional, mostrando a nossa cara. Realmente nós somos ainda humanos. Nós temos ainda espírito de humanidade.
When you travel around Clara's region, you see kilometers on end of massive soya plantations and sugarcane plantations and cattle ranches, colossal cattle ranches, and they're all on Guarani land. And in the meantime, the Guarani are living crammed into these tiny reserves and roadside camps with really appalling living conditions, no space to hunt or fish or plant, obviously, no clean water, soaring rates of malnutrition and suicide as a result of the theft of that land. And some Guarani people, including Clara's family, are living on tiny patches of forest that they have reoccupied from the ranchers. So tired and desperate of waiting for the government to do its job and return the land to them, they've actively decided to go back to it and reoccupy parts of it. And of course, that often results in violence from the ranchers who send their gunmen to attack the communities and kill the leaders. And of course, the current Brazilian government, the Bolsonaro government, is actively encouraging this land theft and this violence. President Bolsonaro and his agribusiness allies declared war on indigenous peoples the day they took office on the 1st of January 2019. And since then, indigenous peoples have faced the most racist and anti-indigenous government since the military dictatorship in Brazil. The destruction of the Amazon rainforest and other biomes across Brazil has skyrocketed. Under the Bolsonaro government over the last 3 years, the average rate of destruction of forests was 11,405 square kilometers per year. That's an area larger than the size of Jamaica every year being destroyed. And that rate is 75% higher than the average of the previous 10 years. And at the same time, Attacks on indigenous communities have soared, as have the numbers of killings of indigenous people on the front line and their allies. And those killed in recent months and years include Paulo Paulino Guajajara and Janildo Guajajara, Amazon Guardians, Vitor Fernandes Guarani, who was killed by military police in the Guapoí massacre, and Márcio Moreira Guarani, who was killed soon after. Ari Uruewawao, Original and Arecona Yanomami in the north of the Brazilian Amazon, near the Venezuelan border. The indigenous expert Bruno Pereira and the British journalist Dom Phillips, and so many others. We'll always remember them all, and we'll push for their killers to be brought to justice, and we'll continue for what they and we believe in, which is a world where indigenous peoples are respected as the contemporary societies that they are, and their lands protected so that they can survive and thrive and live in the way that they choose. And one of the most horrific forms of invasion of indigenous territories in Brazil is for illegal mining. It's happening on the lands of the Yanomami people, the Kayapó, the Munduruku, and many other peoples across the country. And let's now watch a video of Alessandra Munduruku.
Pode me matar, mas eu vou continuar resistindo e eu vou continuar lutando, porque eu não vou me silenciar. A minha raiz está lá no fundo, e ela cresce, e ela vai crescendo cada vez mais. Não é só a Alessandra, é o povo, é outros povos da floresta. Nós estamos enfrentando o mesmo problema que os povos Yanomami, os povos Kayapó, o povo Munduruku está enfrentando, que é o garimpo. O garimpo está trazendo muita destruição, tanto no rio, tanto na floresta, tanto no povo. Não é o homem branco que tem que mandar no povos indígenas, é nós mesmos. Temos que enfrentar esses monstros que estão tomando o território, que estão cada vez avançando o território. Os países que compram ouro do Brasil, será que sabe de onde vem? Será que sabe de onde está saindo? Será que ele está sabendo que o povo está bebendo água suja? Será que os outros países estão sabendo que o povo está doente com mercúrio? O peixe está contaminado pelo mercúrio? Os países que estão comprando ouro, que não sabe de onde vem, também está ajudando a matar os povos indígenas. Também é culpado de estar matando povos, matando a floresta e matando o rio. A gente jamais vai se silenciar. A gente tem que enfrentar mesmo com o nosso corpo, com a nossa alma, com nossos espíritos, nós vamos enfrentar. Porque nosso antepassado lutaram, agora é nossa vez. E depois garantir o território para as futuras gerações também.
So as you can see, Alessandra is extremely determined, and I mean, she's received so many death threats, her house has been raided, but she says she's not going to stop fighting because she and her people can't depend on any government to adequately protect their territories. And as well as having to confront the shocking impacts of illegal mining and also the severe health problems that brings, Alessandra and others are also having to fight on another level. They're having to lobby against the mining bill. The mining bill in Brazil, some of you may have heard about it. It's one of the many extremely dangerous draft bills and constitutional amendments that the Bolsonaro government has been trying desperately to push through. And this mining bill would open up indigenous territories to large-scale mining, including by multinational companies. And it would be devastating for indigenous territories nationwide. So Survival is campaigning alongside indigenous peoples against the mining bill, against all of these other dangerous proposals and plans. And later on, you'll see how you can join as well. Of all the indigenous peoples threatened by mining and the other forms of land theft, uncontacted tribes stand to lose the most. Whole peoples could be wiped out. they're the most vulnerable peoples on the planet, and they can be decimated by disease to which they have no resistance, or by violence at the hands of outsiders. This has happened too many times. The last time that it happened was recently, a few months ago. A man in the Tanaru indigenous territory, who was the last survivor of his people who had been massacred by invaders, he died. He was known as the last of his tribe. So with his death was the end of that people. We don't know their name. He is a symbol of this genocide, and also a symbol of resistance of uncontacted tribes who are so determined to live uncontacted. They show very clearly that that's what they want. And when their lands are protected from outsiders, they can survive and thrive. And that's what's got to happen to prevent this from happening again, to prevent other uncontacted tribes from being completely wiped out. So now we're going to watch a video that I filmed with our friend Rita Piripkura here on the edge of her people's territory in Rondônia state in the western Brazilian Amazon. Rita is a survivor of numerous massacres in which many of her relatives were killed. Almost all of her relatives were killed, actually. She does now have contact with non-indigenous people, but her brother and her nephew are uncontacted in the forest.
O que é Piripicura, que é minha terra, que é a Rita. Gente que quer curar, que Mondurugaro, que daqui até tudinho, né? Que matou tudinho. Minha tia, não, é minha tia não. É minha tógora que matou, minha tógora que matar. 9 quilos. Vambora, matou, vambora lá. Uturaram, parar. Aí vem pra cá, né? Aí direto vai em cima, né? Terra. Aí fiquei para canoa. Aí que vambora. Aí Mondurugaro, né? Mondurugaro. Manhã tem couro. Muito de pinho, vento, rio, que vai embora pra cá. Aqui, ó. Piripicura pra cá. Branca com tcheco. Aí eu cortar, né? Aqui, ó. É minha avó. Aí parou, não. E parou para mim, não. Não, chora não. É um branco que cortou, eu falou. Aí aí meu pai parou, né? Não, é branca aqui, não é o macaco, não é macaco, rapaz, é porque é branco, tá? E quando é que derruba muito o dia, manteiga, aí eu parei a caça lá, nem tem, né? Aí minha mãe fica lá, eu, tudo aqui, ó, tudo aqui, ó, andando, tá minha irmã, tô eu, minha irmã, meu pai, minha mãe, meu irmão, e eu, tô. Aí tu tá aqui procurando aqui andar. É meu irmão, essa aí. É meu irmão, a outra aqui é Tamanduá, aqui é minha tumbiria. Tem doida, agora que eu vi da Tapiri, eu tô pensando que matar, que tem muita gente que andando, tá? Que mais matar é de doida, matar aí, ó, não tem mais.
So, as you can see, the stakes are so high here, and this particular indigenous territory, Piripicura indigenous territory, is actually one of the territories which has not yet been demarcated, and instead it's got what they call a land protection order on it, which is an emergency mechanism that FUNAI, the Indigenous Affairs Department of the Brazilian government, can use to keep invaders out, in theory, of indigenous territories where uncontacted tribes live if they haven't yet been demarcated as per the full system. And the problem is, one of many problems for these 7 territories with these land protection orders in Brazil, is that the Bolsonaro government has been desperately trying to rip up these orders and has the backing of local politicians, including Zequinha Marinho and others who are really fiercely anti-indigenous and want to completely open up these territories, which would of course mean the end for the people who live there. And so together with allies in Brazil, we've been campaigning intensively for more than a year now for these land protection orders to be upheld and renewed when they expire. And against all odds, we have succeeded in pushing the Brazilian government to renew these orders. But there's a long way to go, obviously. That's one step. The next step is to make sure the invaders are actually kept out of the territories and to fully demarcate them as the constitution obliges. So of course, indigenous peoples have been fighting back against all of this since the Europeans invaded and colonized the Americas over 500 years ago. And they remind us every day that they won't stop now. And as well as the Forest Guardians and many other indigenous land defense initiatives that are happening and that are led by indigenous people on the front line, on their lands, on top of that, of course, the indigenous movement is also resisting on a national level. And as you know, on Sunday, Brazilians will vote in the second round of the presidential election, whose result will be incredibly important for indigenous peoples, especially uncontacted tribes. It's a really, really tense moment. Obviously, uncontacted people don't know that there's a man called Bolsonaro. They don't know that there's a man called Lula. But the difference between the two could have an existential impact for them. And during this election, we've seen an unprecedented number of indigenous candidates running for positions in Congress, as some of you may have seen. And Sonia Guajajara and Célia Chacriabá here were elected as congresswomen. So they'll be an important force in terms of bringing the indigenous land rights question to the center of political debate in Brasilia. And let's now hear from Célia Chacriabá. This is a video filmed at the Acampamento Terra Livre, the free land camp indigenous protest in Brasilia in April 2019, so just a few months after Bolsonaro came into power.
Não conseguiu nos matar na época da colonização, também não conseguiu nos enterrar na época da ditadura. Mas atualmente nós vivemos um momento do genocídio legislado. É pela caneta que está nos matando. Quando o atual governo autoriza a flexibilização do armamento nos territórios indígenas, está autorizando executar os nossos corpos. E nós, povos indígenas, nós morremos não apenas quando executam a liderança. Nós, povos indígenas, nós morremos coletivamente quando nos nega o território. E as pessoas têm falado na sociedade brasileira, vocês não têm medo em tempo de acentuação da violência? E nós temos dito que nós temos medo mesmo é de permanecer vivo sem poder dizer quem a gente é. Nós estamos aqui por um ato de justiça. Eu sou Célia Chacriabá, do povo indígena Chacriabá.
So, indigenous people around Brazil are calling for more support from people around the world, and you can join them. I'd encourage everybody to join them. It works from the demarcation of the Yanomami territory that I mentioned before in northern Brazil, which is the largest forested indigenous territory in the world, to the eviction of thousands of illegal loggers from the Awa indigenous territory in Maranhão state in the northeastern Brazilian Amazon, and the halting of dangerous laws and proposals that the Bolsonaro government and other governments have been trying to push through. We see constantly that Brazilian and international public opinion and pressure succeed time and again. So I invite you to scan this QR code, if you'd like, and join the global campaign to stop Brazil's genocide and to allow uncontacted tribes to survive. You'll see on the webpage that there are so many different types of actions that you can take. You can spread indigenous people's own demands, join our urgent campaign actions, and make a donation for indigenous people's land protection work, and all sorts of other things that you can do as well. So please do join. The survival of indigenous peoples and of our shared planet depends on it. Thank you so much. Thanks, everyone. I'm told we have time for one question, if anybody has one question. Oh, sorry? Oh, sorry. No? Okay. Change of plan, no questions. Right? No.
So thank you very much, Sarah, for that, for Survival International. And I want to thank everybody for coming here, the Tate Climate Arts Activism Talks with Earth%. You can find out more about Earth% at earth%.org. And to all the speakers, Felipe Viveros, Lucy Martins, hosted by Sophie Schnapp, Angela Camacho, La Bonita Chola, and then here we have Sarah from Survival International here talking. So yeah, thank you everybody, and do take a chance to look at Cecilia Vicuña's installation in Turbine Hall, which is what we're linking this all to, and using art to raise indigenous feminist voices across the world. So thank you everyone.